Buster Olney, thanks to All-Star Wine and Spirits with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team every Thursday at 5:15. The best of Buster today at 6:30. Buster, Levack's birthday was yesterday. He's back today. He's got a little sweaty palms. He's freaking out a little bit. The Yankees 5-5 on their homestand, 2 games back in their division. How scared and afraid should Levack be at this point, Buster?
Well, if it's about winning the division, then he should be very afraid because the Blue Jays are a great team. But if it's about making the playoffs and he's looking for that, at least to get an opportunity for the one-game wild card, maybe throw a Tanaka out there to advance against the Kansas City Royals, you know what? I think the numbers are pretty overwhelming in terms of being in favor of the Yankees. I was looking at MLB.com this morning, and every day they update, teams' playoff probability. As of this morning, for the Yankees, their chances of making the postseason, 94%.
Wow.
Okay? They've got a 4-game lead in the wild card race. And keep in mind, the teams that are chasing them are not exactly going to be confused with the 98 Yankees when you're talking about, the Texas Rangers with pitching issues, the Minnesota Twins, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the Yankees' chances of making the playoffs are really good. But it depends on whether you're only focused on winning the division or just getting into the dance.
Well, I mean, I'd love to take the AL East, but it sounds to me like you're convinced the Blue Jays are just going to keep this run going.
I don't think they're going to slow down. I mean, they look right now like they're either the first or second best team in baseball. It's either the Royals or the Blue Jays, and the way they're playing, and with David Price, coming in and making such a difference for them. And here's more bad news for you, Levack, in terms of winning the division. They got Marcus Stroman making progress in his rehabilitation, 40 pitches in his simulated game on Monday. He's going to throw 55 pitches on Friday, and then he's going to go pitch the minor leagues for a couple weeks, and you might see him in the Blue Jays rotation sometime in September that's now going to be comprised of David Price and Stroman and Mark Burley and R.A. Dickey, and that's pretty good.
Buster Olney, thanks to All-Star Wine and Spirits with Armen and Levack.
Where I'll be going.
On 104.5 The Team. Buster, the Yankees' bats are quiet. Is that because they're old?
I think that's part of it. There's been a lot of talk. I've seen, columnists have written that, hey, Alex Rodriguez needs to turn around. I mean, let's face it, guys. He's 40 years old. There's no guarantee he's going to bounce back during the year. If he doesn't have another at-bat for the rest of the season, I think we would look at his numbers and say, you know what? He contributed a lot more than what people generally expected. It's got to be other guys. You have to have a Brett Gardner step up. You have to have a Jacoby Ellsbury stay in the lineup and stay healthy and produce. The idea that you're going to continually lean on Alex Rodriguez, I just think is unrealistic. They got to get production from other places.
Well, Buster, if it's not A-Rod, who is the one most important person in the Yankees lineup that needs to step up to get them to the postseason?
Jacoby Ellsbury. I think. He's a difference-making player when he's healthy. We've seen stretches of that this year where he's played really well. And I know he's got a physical issue now. It doesn't seem like it's a major issue. They have to have him back in the lineup and setting up their offense because, as we've seen, their pitching is not bad at all. But their offense has just been such an issue.
ESPN's Buster Olney, thanks to All-Star Wine and Spirits. Did the Yankees overreact to Carlos Gomez being animated on the pop fly the other day?
Totally. I just thought to myself, when you look at it at the end of the day, to review with baseball's unwritten rules, what the Yankees are saying is it's not okay to yell at yourself in anger if you have a big lead, but it is okay to empty the benches over something really stupid, and it is okay for Joe Girardi to call out a player on another team and talk about, well, he's got to learn how to play the game the right way. And I was kind of laughing because, I covered Girardi as a player when he was, and his best friend on that team was Paul O'Neill, okay? Did you guys ever remember Paul O'Neill not throwing something, no matter what the score was, good or bad? And you know what? They all understood. Everybody in baseball understood. This is just the way Paul O'Neill was. And I personally think that Girardi, the other Yankees, after 9 years of Carlos Gomez being the most demonstrative player in baseball, waving his hands at teammates, bat flipping, talking to himself, being really flamboyant. I think it's been established that that's how Carlos Gomez plays, and it's not personal. It clearly is not at the Yankees, just that's how he is. And on top of that, who cares? You know what? If you don't like it, that you're down 9-0 and the guy's doing that stuff, then get him out. Get the games closer.
Buster, what do you think of Jim Leyrit's take on this situation? He joined us yesterday, as he does every Wednesday, and said this about Carlos Gomez.
This is the difference between the teams that I played on and the teams now. There is no way we would have probably hit Gomez last night, but when you don't hit him last night and then he takes you deep and he parades around the bases again, the fact that they didn't drill him the first time up today, it befuddles me. It's just I don't understand where that etiquette of baseball has disappeared to, that this guy didn't wear one.
Buster, your thoughts?
Well, it's part of the unwritten rules, but it is kind of funny. I believe me, I love covering Jim. I got him for 1 year. But the funny thing was that Jim Leyritz and the way that he played was not that much different than Carlos Gomez.
Well, there you go.
Every time Leyritz took a strike, players with other teams would roll their eyes because he did that thing where he would flip his bat. Levack, you know what I'm talking about. He'd take a strike and sort of do it. And I had heard players and other teams would say, oh, geez, why does he have to do that? And I say to them after a while, look, he's been doing it since he got into the big leagues. Who cares?
Okay.
And that's the way that I feel about this. And again, it's not like he's a rookie player and you're just starting to learn about this. He does it against everybody. He does it every day. It's not a new thing. Do I, if I were a player, would I play that way? No. Would some of the Yankees play that way? Of course not. But, that's how he plays. If you feel like he's a fool, then just let it go and concentrate on trying to play better.
Buster, when that unwritten rule and the toughness of throwing the chin music or hitting him in the side comes up, I look at the Yankees and I think the only guy they've got that would do that is CC Sabathia, and now he might go to the bullpen. Is he the only guy who has that air quote toughness to intimidate other batters?
I think Tanaka is underrated in that regard. I've seen him; he doesn't have a problem buzzing guys. And your question is an excellent question because with every staff, every team, you have different guys who'll do that and different guys who wouldn't. When I covered the Yankees, Andy Pettitte hated retaliation. And some of the relievers on that staff used to be really angry that they, in their minds, had to do the dirty work for Andy Pettitte and for David Cohn and David Wells. They felt like that too often it was left in their hands. But I got to be honest, as time has gone on, I just take a different view on it. Unless you think that the other team is intentionally smoking your guys on purpose, hitting them in the ribs or higher, I can't imagine scenarios where something like that would be appropriate. Again, Carlos Gomez, okay, so he dances around the bases, looks like he's enjoying it. I'll always go back to what I always heard from Mike Cassino in the years I covered him in Baltimore with the Yankees. He didn't care. His feeling was Tim Hudson was the same way. Look, it's my job to get you out. I did a terrible job. Do what you want to do. It's up to my job to change a result.
ESPN's Buster Olney, thanks to All-Star Wine and Spirits. Buster, if CC Sabathia can come back, should he go to the bullpen?
I think that if there were not contracts, and Girardi's acknowledged this, that his contractual situation is certainly a factor in how they think. I think in a perfect world, maybe that would be the case, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that, the fact that CC showed a good month in which his velocity was up gives him some hope. But let's face it, guys, when you're talking about a really big man who's played a lot of sports, not only baseball, but played basketball, he played football, and he's got a bad right knee, that ain't getting better. That is a chronic problem, and I think it's going to continue to be a problem for the rest of his career. And I don't think it would surprise anybody if, at some point, CC just is, not able to pitch because of that issue. He was confident the other day in talking with the reporters about coming back, but there's no guarantee that he's not going to have a setback of some kind.
So you're saying that if CC comes back this year, he's going to come back as a starter? Like, could he be a starter in the postseason for the Yankees?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. I wonder if it would be more the case of, And we've seen this in recent years with, pitchers with other teams, most notably Barry Zito in 2010, where the Giants told Zito, look, we love you, but you don't really fit as on the staff. And I got to believe that if the Yankees are making choices about loading up for bullpen for a series, I mean, what would give them reason to think that CC Sabathia would be successful coming out of the bullpen? I just don't see it. I think if what they might do is just leave him off the 25-man roster and tell him to prepare for the possibility they would need him if some other starter got hurt.
Got it. Let's get to the Amazins.
Yeah, Yoenis Cespedes, 2 for 5 last night. Where does he rank in this year's trade deadline acquisitions?
Well, it's right near the top. In fact, believe me, in talking with people within the Mets organization, they're feeling really good about how that played out. Because if you remember, he was down their list of possible guys to target. Carlos Gomez, didn't work out. He hasn't played that great, and his Yankee performance is notwithstanding. They tried to work something out for Jay Bruce. That didn't work out. The Reds increased their demands. They tried to trade for Justin Upton. They offered essentially the same package that they gave to the Tigers for Cespedes, and so they wind up with their fourth choice, and now they have the shortstop that they were going to give up in Wilmer Flores. And guys, you remember like in mid-July when the Mets couldn't touch left-handed pitchers, and now you have Cespedes and Wilmer Flores and David Wright and Kadire, having gotten a mid-season pit stop. They all of a sudden look like a team that could do some damage against lefty pitching. And, oh, by the way, assuming that they hang on and win the National League East at this point, guess who they face in the first round, in the first game in all likelihood? Clayton Kershaw or Madison Bumgarner, 2 left-handers.
Wow. Buster, last night, Bartolo Colon throws 7 scoreless innings. Is this just a sign that it could be the year for the Mets and that everything's going right when Bartolo Colon can give you that in August?
And I love Adam Rubin had a great description on our website about how Colon broke out his curveball last night against the Phillies, who had, of course, probably had scouted Colon like everybody else and knows that he throws 98% fastballs. There's no question that the Mets, going into the postseason, they're going to be a dangerous team. And if they wind up facing, it seems almost certain they're going to face, either the Dodgers or the Giants in the division series. That's a tough matchup for either one of those teams because the pitching is so good. And then you'd be looking at, if they can advance past that, then they'd be looking at one of the National League Central teams. This is a good team. And we've been talking about it all year, about how dangerous they can be. And Levack, you started haunting me with that question every week.
Wasn't going to ask today.
To the Mets, right? Well, there's no question right now. If you're taking, which team could go further in October, no question. As of today, it'd be the Mets.
Buster, the one and only weakness appears to be that bullpen. They collapsed again last night.
Yeah, and we'll see how they do, but who knows in the way that as Matz comes back and the way they use their pitchers, maybe they can bolster it by shifting one of those hard throwers into the bullpen. And I, just from my conversation with Mets people, there's so much talk about the rotation and the innings. They're going to say all the right things, but when you get to October and they have those, those 2 yellow lines that they don't want to cross because of inning limit, forget it. They're going to be all over the road, and they're going to blow through it if they have an opportunity to do things in October because they're not going to make the same mistake the Nationals did 3-4 years ago with Strasburg and hold him back and not pitch him when they have a chance to do some damage in the postseason.
So, Buster, as of today, August 27th, who is your favorite out of the National League to get to the World Series?
You know what? Before the season started, I picked the Pirates, so I'm going to stay with that until they're out because all my other picks from before the season, except for the Yankees being the wildcard team, are looking pretty bad. But to me, they're a really dangerous team. They seem to be getting healthy right at the right time. They've now got some extra depth. And, the Cubs are certainly playing well. The Cardinals, I do think that, in all likelihood, the National League representative in the World Series is going to come out of that Central.
Didn't we think it was going to be the Nationals? Are they just done?
Well, as of this morning on it, the same odds, MLB.com, I mean, these numbers are mind-boggling to me, knowing how much talent the Nationals have. We thought they had on their roster coming into the year. The Mets' chances for winning and making the postseason, 87%. The Nationals' chances, 12%. And it's been remarkable how, when they have a bad game like yesterday when they lose to San Diego, Yunel Escobar, quoted in the Washington Post, is saying, that we've got some time to work this out. You don't have much time at all. They're running out of clock at this point, 6.5 games out with, 35, 36 games to go. What's
their problem? What's their deal? What's their Achilles heel?
Well, it's interesting because there is a ton of conversation now in baseball about Matt Williams.
Yeah.
And I've heard around the edges that the players want him to be, would prefer more of a warm and fuzzy manager, a guy who comes in and asks them how they're doing. I kind of get leery of that sort of conversation because I think that managers can be scapegoated. I think when when we write the history of what's wrong with the Nationals this year, the bottom line is that they've been hurt by injury, and even when they got guys back, they haven't been nearly as productive as they had anticipated, whether it's an Anthony Rendon, a Ryan Zimmerman, a Jason Wirth, a Denard Span. Every team is dealing with injuries, and it just so happens that a lot of the key guys the Nationals lost as they've come back, they haven't hit as well as expected.
Buster, when you say, a manager that the players love, pops out in my mind, Ron Washington. I covered the Rangers, for a good amount of time. I love that man. I would love to see him back as a manager, whether it's Washington in Washington, which is the campaign that I like because it's catchy. Do you expect Ron Washington to be a big league skipper again next year?
No.
Okay.
I don't. I think that, and your point is well taken. And players loved Wash. I thought the players played hard for him. He's a good communicator. He's direct with them. And John Daniels, the Texas general manager, is certainly someone who's, involved in sabermetrics and statistical analysis. He does a great job of those. And he and Wash had a lot of success together. But Wash's reputation is one who, he was more of a gut feel guy and not a numbers guy.
Yeah.
And I just think in this day and age, in 2015, you got to be ingrained in the numbers. And it's going to take a special situation, whether it's, an owner who gets to know Wash or a general manager who's really tight with Wash. I think that's the type of situation that needs to happen for him to be a manager again.
Interesting, and that's very accurate. He always went with his gut. ESPN's Buster Olney. Buster, you're still on vacation at Lake George. Thank you so much for your time today, man. It means a lot of us that you would take a few minutes and spend time with us. So what's your go-to out on the lake? Are you a tubing guy, skiing?
Banana
you just
boat.
like to lay out
Banana
and
boat.
get that Buster tan? What do you do?
Everything except the tan. I'm the worst. The person who sits in the sun, I can't fathom that. So the vacation has been basically hike in the morning, go play tennis, then go swimming, go inner tubing, go run. It's been great. It's been nonstop being outside, and I became a family legend with an epic hike this year that will never be topped. Based on where I went, I'll just put that out there.
Would you hike to Albany?
Well, there's a hike that's basically straight up a mountain from here, a place called Black Mountain. It's alongside Lake George, and it's basically straight uphill from this place, 17.5 miles. My brother-in-law did that.
Whoa.
Yeah, my friends always want me to do that. I'm like, I'll see you at the bottom with beers. I'll be there.
Well, that's going to be me next year because I told my brother-in-law after we got it done, I said, the cool thing is we can now sit on the porch, look at Black Mountain, look at everybody else and say, no one can match that.
That's awesome. That's right. And if you ever want to do it again, we're here for you with beers, Buster. Just know that. Buster Olney, thanks to All-Star Wine and Spirits. Buster, thanks so much, man. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, guys, thanks.
And Levack, we love us some All-Star Wine and Spirits. They're the reason why we're able to get Buster right here on the airwaves every Thursday at 5:15, the best of Buster at 6:30. You were on vacation, you had a birthday, and you included All-Star Wine and Spirits and all that.
Yeah, I sent out a letter. In lieu of presents, just give me booze. And oddly enough, everyone went to All-Star, and then they have the Levack listing there. So Jack is pretty much the list.
Yeah, they know where to go. If you say, hey, Levack, oh, come on. Like, before you get the vac out, they're already walking you over to that corner in the back right. Go to All-Star Wine and Spirits in Latham Farms, allstarwine.com. They have your baseball wine as well. Yankees, Mets, Red Sox, whatever team you cheer for, they got you covered at All-Star Wine and Spirits, allstarwine.com.